Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show you an amazing puzzle. This puzzle, the first move of this just absolutely stunned me, so really stay tuned and hopefully you enjoy it. It is white to move and win. The white pawns are going up the board like this, and as I mentioned, it's white to move. Try to see if you can calculate a couple moves down the road. You might think you see the first move, but I will just say right now, it's probably not right, because there's a trick for black. So while you're thinking about that, let me just quickly encourage you to subscribe if you have not yet already. Half of the income that I earn in this channel goes directly to charity, and because of all the subscriptions, we've given $1,100 to charity, so thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. Let's get started here. So if you're like me, the first thing you thought was rook a1, because it feels so natural. And if you didn't spot that, that's okay. We'll just talk about this to start. The idea, of course, is if the queen takes this, white wins pretty easily because they then check and then the king moves. Let's say they take, doesn't matter. And now you take the pawn and you're good. This is enough material. So the thing is, when you play rook a1, they don't have to take you. Of course, they have an out square. And if you got this far in your calculation, maybe you're like, oh, I'm really clever. I'll play rook to g1, right? Just kind of continuing to give up the rook. Again, the idea is that if they take, you play knight f3, very similar idea. Or if they take the pawn, you play knight f3, again, very similar idea. But if you got this far in your calculation, you may have noticed that they can just take this pawn and it kind of feels like there's nothing left to do. You can check the king, but it just walks away. And if only you can put the rook on this square, you'd be able to fork, but you can't. And that might motivate the solution. That's a little hint for you. So you say, okay, how do I think about this whole process now that I know what failed in that line? And you consider other moves. You think, okay, is there a way I can check? Well, no, they just take this pawn and I have absolutely nothing to show for it. Is there a knight move, maybe? Do I make a knight check? No, that doesn't make any sense either. They take this pawn. And it feels like no matter what you do, the thought continues to go to rook a1 as being the central idea. And then, this is where you see the key insight. So, one more second. If you want to pause it, feel free. I'm going to share the solution. The first move, this move stunned me when I saw this. The first move is g6. What in the world is that move? I was just dumbfounded by that because you see all this action here. You're thinking there's going to be something like a check or maybe a rook sack. And they play g6. There's a queen in the corner. It doesn't matter. And now you have to ask yourself, what is the threat? Well, let's figure it out. So black has many moves here. And we'll just talk about a couple of them. So first of all, I'm threatening to just take or push. So you got to address that at some point. Let's just talk about what happens if they take. So if black takes your pawn, which feels a little weird because it feels like you just kind of threw it up as a last gasp effort, now you can play rook a1, and there's a key difference. Can you identify that difference with this kind of pretext? Well, now, again, they don't take you. Instead, they play rook g2. And you chase them again to rook g1. And now, the key difference is, if they take this pawn, which is their best move, essentially, you can now play rook g4 check, and the king, of course, can't walk forward, has to go backwards. If it walks to e5, you check and win the queen, right? That's pretty obvious. If instead they go to c5, instead of this being a check, it's now a pin. And what happens? They take you and you fork them again. So that's the critical idea. So you might say, what is this g6 move doing? That g6 move frees up the g5 square. Isn't that pretty amazing? Very instructional point there. At least I feel like it is. And that allows for this whole sequence to take place. Now you might say to me, but Frank, wait a second. That's assuming they take. What if they do something else? What if they see this coming and instead they do something else with the queen? And I'd say, okay, sure. Like what? Well, if they take here, let's just kind of cover the bases. You just play knight f3 check, right? That's still a threat. So they can't take that pawn. Okay, so let's just go through the kind of thoughts here. They can't go here for the same idea. We'll show it. If they do this, knight f3 check. They can't go here because you'll take it. Can't go here, you'll take it. Can't go here, you'll take it. If they go there, knight b3 check, right? And it's funny, the computer is telling me g7 is the best move. I'm not playing that as a human being, but that's just me. Okay, and of course you don't want to go to a1. So you can't go to any of these squares, right? All of these squares are completely blocked off. What about the diagonal? Can you go here? No. Can you go here? No. You might take the pawn, and you might play queen g2. Let's look at those two. So if you take the pawn, well, now I check you with the king or with the rook. And it's the same idea. You run in front, you're going to get checked, and you're going to lose the queen. You run backwards, you're going to get pinned, and after the capture, you're going to lose the queen. If you can visualize that, maybe just show that. I don't want to make it too advanced. I want to make sure I'm making everybody happy here. And this is a winning king and pawn ending. They can take here. Well, not even king and pawn. You have a knight. So, great. Okay, so the queen, the conclusion we just drew is the queen cannot go here either. So all of these places except for g2 are blocked off. What about g2? Well, now, it's funny how simple the answer is. If you just had to stop and think about this position, we were just focusing on this rook, let's not get tunnel vision. The best move is just g takes h7. And how are you stopping this pawn? And you might think you can get checked, but very simply, you can just play king e1. And what do? They check you again, knight f1. Right? It looks crazy, but it's quite simple. The best move, queen g7. You just promote. They can try to check you. The best move the computer is saying is queen e5 check. Yeah, just take that. This is an easy win. I'd play this move to cut the king off. My knight would hop in. My king would walk in. It's an easy win. I'm not looking for efficiency here. I'm looking for a clean win. So you might think, what other options are there? And that's kind of the beauty of this position. After g6, there really isn't any other good option. If they take, it goes into that sequence I was just showing. If they take here, you check them and you win the queen. If they go to g2, it's the same idea. You can play g takes h7 as I just showed. What other ideas do you have? Maybe you're thinking about queen or king takes. It's a good idea because now it gets you out of this whole rook a1 trouble. But just simply either g7 or g takes h7. I think personally I'd play g takes h because it looks like a cleaner square. But because I'm always afraid of like checks and stuff. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how there's like no good move after g6. In some way, this is like a zugzwang position. Now, if they make a nothing move, like a, I don't know, d6 kind of thing, well, you just take. So they have to address this threat. And there's no way to address the threat. Maybe you're saying, hey, what if they push? Maybe that gets me out of it. It doesn't. I push. g7, how are you stopping this? You play here? That's not stopping it. I can still push. There's no perpetual check here. Isn't this absolutely amazing? The simple move, g6, wins the game. And what's beautiful about this puzzle, that whole variation of rook a1 and then rook g1 chasing the queen around, that's all under the surface. That's what's beautiful about chess. There's all this complexity, but it's just buried beneath all of these variations. Personally, that's my favorite variation. After this move, they take you, and then you play rook a1. They play queen g2. It doesn't really matter here either. It's the same idea. And look at this. Crazy. What else do they do? The computer is saying king takes. Yeah, you're fine. Knight f3, you're holding this. You're not going to get kicked away. You're fine. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the video, the puzzle. If you enjoyed it, please let me know. Give me some feedback. I love to hear from the community. And that's it for now. Thank you so much. Bye.